Welcome back. We are live here with our first semifinal match. This is between Andy Ferguson and Tom Ross. For Andy Ferguson, it is his second straight weekend top 8ing the Open Series. Doing it in a field of 700 players. Last weekend, it was Ops on Company. This weekend, he's decided that Reflector Mage was too good to pass up, and he switched over to Bant Company. He looks like a man who's known what he's doing, has made top 8 appearances with both, but he's facing his best test yet in Tom Ross. Red Black Dragons' Tom Ross ran the table, defeating Kent Ketter and Matthew Tickle to get to the semis.
Something we did not discuss. This is a leather jacket mirror. We gave Ross the credit, discounted Ferguson. They are both sharply dressed.
Hashtag who wore it better.
Ferguson has some pretty flashy pockets, so.
Ferguson will start off on a Plains and Lumbering Falls, passes back to Tom. Now, no 2-drop early on for the deck. He does play 4 copies of Sylvan Advocate and Jace Vryn's Prodigy, so a little bit surprised to see him not come out of the gates there.
The other thing about this, though, we didn't have either of our 2-drops. It means we're probably pretty flush with 3-drops, and they can be pretty high impact.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised to see some collected companies coming out. If you're going to keep something without a 2-drop creature, generally, by turn 4, you want to have 3 creatures and play with a company deck. Now, the way to do that is to play one on 3 and company on 4.
We might see Ferguson hem and haw on past turn here, representing those bounding Crassus, as we've seen from Ferguson.
Yeah, the early game challenge from Tom will be to see whether he can kill those creatures. He plays a second land of his own, and for Ferguson, it is land 3 and pass. Now, don't be fooled. He may have a 3-drop here.
Do not trust this man. He always has something.
Well, a certain fish lizard he's been playing with most of the day. Good in this spot. It's going to be Thopter Engineer for Tom. This one's an interesting one. Tom's been playing this one all weekend as opposed to the Hordling Outburst that's in the stock deck. I think in a lot of ways this was a reaction to Reflector Mage.
Yep, Crassus is going to come in here and tap that token. I'm almost certain of it.
Well, do you want to tap the token or the Thopter Engineer?
Thopter Engineer is only a 1/3 on the block. You're saving yourself 1 life here, and your plan is most likely to attack with the Crassus on your turn. I'd tap the token.
Okay, you don't put Tom on blocking.
Yeah, and even if he is blocking, I don't especially care.
And that is the play. The Fish Lizard will jump into play. It will tap the Thopter token, and now we go to Andy's 4th turn. Swings in, no blocks. First damage is Andy's. Tom down to 16.
The other thing about that is life total management for Ferguson is going to be very important. We were just talking about Kolagon, the Storm's Fury, and how much damage output that card has. You just got to save every point that you can here.
Well, how unlucky, Andy, with no turn 4 play again.
Missed again.
We know that's not the case. Thunderbreak Regent will be the turn 4 play for Tom Ross. And the company's going to show up. We'll see who's coming over.
And he's going to wait till end step. Doesn't really care about finding a Crassus and tapping the Thopter again.
All right. We have company. We'll see what it is. Jace, Reflector Mage. Did we invite anyone else? Sylvan Advocate. And he has enough seats at the table for 2 of them.
Feels like a Jason Reflector Mage to me. Plenty of room at Andy's table, though.
Jason Reflector Mage is the pick. Reflector Mage is going to bounce that Thunderbreak Regent. Now, Andy will have to take 3 to do that.
But he now has 5 power on the board. To be fair, that Reflector Mage is just going to stare at this Thopter Engineer for a minute. Unless we do see a Dromoka's command out of Ferguson, which would be a pretty big swing in tempo. You would then be swinging for 6, and Tom would be left with just a 1/1 in play, with no means to cast a Thunderbreak Regent on the following turn. 2
cards in the graveyard for Andy Ferguson, so Jay's still a ways off as we go back to his 5th turn. 15 to 16, the game's still very close. The Reflector Mage bought Andy some tempo. We'll see what he does with it. One 3 blocker standing in the way. We've seen Thopter Engineer, I think for just this reason, be very good. The incremental damage that these decks get off of Reflector Mage, Thopter Engineer's not having any of it.
Yep. Andy's pretty far ahead here, though.
Jace will go ahead and draw. It'll discard Jace. 5th land for Ferguson. And it looks like we have another Reflector Mage, and now it's even going to bounce Thopter Engineer.
Yeah, we didn't see a Dromoka's command here, but at this point, we're not concerned about that Engineer coming back down.
Beats everywhere. Bounding Crassus and Reflector Mage hit Tom down to 11. Andy follows up with a Sylvan Advocate. He now has 5 creatures to Tom's 1.
Tom's going to need a big turn here.
He can recast Thunderbreak, but cannot recast Thopter Engineer.
What he really needs is just some removal spells. You really want to deal with that Advocate before it becomes a 4/5. Andy does have 5 lands in play, so as soon as next turn, that could just be out of hand for most of Tom's removal spells.
No card like Languish or Crux of Fate in Tom's main deck. He has to get through these creatures one removal spell at a time.
And that's the power of Collected Company that we've seen out of Ferguson's deck.
So Tom, you see over in his hand, has Thopter Engineer, Thunderbreak Regent, has a 5th land. Polluted Delta. Now he needs to make sure he doesn't die here. If Andy has a 6th land, that Sylvan Advocate will upgrade from a 2/3 into a 4/5.
Dying is a real concern, and just considering the cards in Andy's deck, creatures are the least reliable way to try to avoid that outcome.
Yeah, Reflector Mages and Bounding Crassus makes blocking a very difficult proposition.
Yeah. I'm almost positive that if Tom is to win this game, step 1 is just going to have to be killing that Advocate.
So 5th land for Tom is going to be a Smoldering Marsh that he fetches for. He'll go to 10.
And then if you're going to kill the Advocate, shortly after, you really need to kill Jace, because there's 3 cards in the graveyard, and one of them's a Collected Company.
Yeah, so if Jace sticks around, Jace is going to flash it back.
But if we kill Jace, then we're leaving 7 power on the other side of the table.
Then we're killing a 0/2 while we're at 10.
This is bad. That's what we're getting at.
You know, and that's the difficulty. When you're a bunch of spot removal, keeping pace with Collected Company is difficult. Post-combat, Flamewake Phoenix. I feel like we see Tom do this every game.
Makes you wonder how he feels about the card's inclusion in the deck.
Draconic Roar will reveal Thunderbreak Regent. Does he want to deal 3 to the Crassus, or is it the Sylvan Advocate? Or even the Jace? He has tough choice here. He'll pick the Advocate.
Yep, it represents the most damage on the next turn, though the Jace does put Tom in a hole that I'm not sure he can climb out of.
Andy will take 3. He'll drop to 12. Life totals remain close. One thing about Tom Ross's Red-Black Dragons deck, because of how many red cards and haste he has, it's possible for him to win when he's behind on the board.
Let's do a quick Culligan check on damage. We would have 3 on the Phoenix, 2 on the Thopter, 5 on the Culligan. Looks like a total of 10 to me.
It's not quite there. Close, though.
No real 1 mana way to add to that clock.
No, the only burn spell out of Black-Red Dragons is the Draconic Roar that we already saw. So Tom would need another mana to make that play. Now keep in mind, he can block with Flamewake Phoenix and then get it back later with that Ferocious ability.
Absolutely. The problem going forward is going to be, though, that the Phoenix has to attack if it's in play pre-combat.
And he's just going to try to bury Tom while he's behind. Jace discards Death Mist Raptor and flips into the Telepath Unbound, getting a creature that Andy would love to have in the graveyard there. Maybe even flashing back a Collected Company. We'll see how he wants to play it. A lot of great options. He could even shrink Flamewake Phoenix, and that's not too terrible either.
Yeah, and even that interaction of discarding Death Mist Raptor is something that's easy to overlook. You might look at Jason this deck and think, oh, this is another one of those blue mages. Just throw in Jason to every deck. There's not even very many spells, but just discarding Death Mist Raptor and getting it back later with the Den Protector can be a pretty huge swing. Yeah.
Interestingly, we've been seeing Andy a lot today, or really over the course of the tournament. And I don't know if we've seen Death Mist Raptor jump out of a graveyard yet.
No.
It's been a fine card. We've seen it trade very well.
I guess that Andy's just been too busy winning.
Yeah. I haven't had to use that trick yet.
Still had that one.
Andy will fetch his Windswept Heath. He'll go down to 11. The land will be a Prairie Stream untapped thanks to that basic Plains and Forest. And hiding out there, he still has that Lumbering Falls. And maybe that's the reason Tom has to kill Sylvan Advocate. If he doesn't, Andy could activate it, and now he has a 5/5 hexproof.
Yeah, the Advocate, big enough problem on its own. Toss a 5/5 with hexproof on top of it.
Andy's going to bring the company in again. Flashes it back. 6. So far, he hasn't found any. He's 4 cards deep. 5, 6. That is a pure miss off Collected Company.
Have not seen that yet this weekend. What are even the odds?
Well,
I ask you because you're the guy.
Yeah, I mean, low. We can math it out.
Apparently non-zero.
Non-zero. I mean, It's still a great attack. He'll just cast Sylvan Advocate, swing in. He gets 4 damage in. Tom is at 6 now, however.
The Phoenix will not be a blocker on this following turn. It's going to have to attack.
It's the only language it knows, unfortunately. I think Tom would keep it back as a blocker if he could.
The only thing that Phoenixes understand is violence.
Well, it's violence against Jace at least. And Tom flooding the board with blockers. 2 Thopter Engineers, 2 Thopters. Once again, Tom playing his haste creatures post-combat.
Yeah, this is definitely the best that play has looked for him, though. He just needs blockers right now, and that's what he has. He's able to bounce an Engineer off of the Reflector Mage, which is good. He's in chump blocking duty against the Krasis and the Advocate, though.
Yeah, Advocate has Vigilance. Krasis will swing in. So I was wondering whether Andy was going to go ahead and activate the Lumbering Falls here.
Yeah, considering that he's not doing that, you have to assume that the hand is gas. Pretty sure we have a Collected Company.
Swing here is going to be a triple block on Bounding Krasis and a single block on Sylvan Advocate.
Yep,
so
that block was great there.
Both Thopters will go down.
Both Engineers will stick around to
Yeah.
chump block another day.
We're getting to a point where Kolagon may be lethal. Now, I believe Andy has another Collected Company, so, I mean, Tom's going to need a lot of luck. He's going to need 2 Collected Companies to brick.
Well, he just passed the turn. He couldn't have anything.
Yeah, I mean, this late in the game, it's possible he has nothing. but he doesn't.
Never had nothing in his life.
Flamewake Phoenix will attack. I think Andy's he'll let himself go to 9.
Yeah.
Game's getting close. Like I said before, though, Tom's going to need a big miss from Andy. He'll play Thunderbreak Regent, leave 2 mana up, 3 mana. He could have another kill spell.
So you're unlikely to miss once. What are the odds that after you miss once that you miss a second time?
Oh, it's a gambler's,
halfway there.
Gambler's fallacy, right?
Well, not exactly.
No. He gets 2 choices. It's Jason, Sylvan Advocate.
Your odds do change.
I'm due. He gets a second Sylvan Advocate. Now, with 2 Sylvan Advocates in play, Lumbering Falls is a 7/7.
Woof.
And he does get a Jason to play, so Andy could have yet another Collected Company if he wants. At this point, I'm actually starting to think that because Thunderbreak's in play, maybe he needs to get in there with this creature land.
Yeah.
But with Tom at 5, the question I'm asking is Andy going to win this? That was not... He wanted to hit Bounding Krasis and Reflector Mages there. He didn't really want Sylvan Advocates.
No, absolutely not.
And Murderous Cut will take down Jace while we're still on Tom's turn. Tom did not want to give Andy the chance to untap and have another Collected Company.
Yep, I like that a lot. And that block with the 2 Engineers on the Thopter on the Krasis turns ago, it's looking really great here. This is a close game where Tom has pressure in the air, and now he just has those blockers that are sticking around.
So hold on. If Andy activates the creature land and swings all 4 creatures, Tom has to block 3 of them because any 2 are lethal.
Correct.
But he could, Thunderbreak could block the 2/3. He could chump block the Lumbering Falls. He could chump block the Sylvan Advocate, let 4 through, go to 1, and then Thunderbreak Regent plus Flamewake Phoenix. That doesn't take very much to be lethal.
No, a Draconic War, a Kolagon. Is there any other card in the deck that can make that full lethal? Pia and Kieran doesn't do it. They don't have haste anymore.
So it seems like Tom has a chance here, but there's one more thing we haven't counted on. There's 1 card remaining in Andy's hand, and it's good. It's a copy of Ojatai's Command. It's 2 of in his deck. Tom's going to swing for 6. He'll put Andy down to 3. Pass the turn. Ojatai's Command. Does Tom have a Draconic Roar? It would win here.
Yeah. In the face of no Roar here, that Command looks to lock things up.
I think it's going to be gain 4 and put Sylvan Advocate into play. Andy, I believe, is going to do this before damage so that Draconic Roar does not get him.
Yeah, I like that a lot.
He wouldn't want to go to 3 and then put that on the stack.
You either do that before damage or don't cast it at all.
Second Thunderbreak Regent from Tom Ross. For Andy, he's going to activate Lumbering Falls, and he's swinging with 3 Advocates and a humongous Lumbering Falls. A 9/9 hexproof. That is too much, and game 1 goes over to Andy Ferguson, ahead the whole time, and Tom Ross really making a sweat out of it.
Yeah, he killed Tom about 2 or 3 times on the final turn, but it is important to note that that game was actually very close just a turn ago.
Wow, so Andy Ferguson, Bant Company, in a nail-biter takes that game. We're going to go ahead and look at the sideboards. We're going to start over with Tom Ross. So we have 2 copies of Kolaghan's Command, 2 Kozilek's Returns, 4 Self-Inflicted Wounds, 1 Obnixilus, 1 Crux of Fate, 4 Transgress the Mind, and a Kalitas. Now, I'm just going to say right now, before we get into what he's doing for this matchup, on the weekend, we watched a ton of Tom Ross, and I think he would have had an even better deck today with their 4 Transgress the Minds in the main. He's been bringing them in every single matchup.
Yeah, they're just great against basically everybody. We're definitely going to see that one here. Probably going to see the Self-Inflicted Wounds as well. They're going to take care of those pesky Sylvan Advocates. Also do some chip damage to Ferguson. Another removal spell that just pressured Ferguson's life total might have swung the game entirely in that game 1. So both of those cards are going to be great here.
Yeah, I mean, Tom will be able to do a pretty big switch on his deck. We're already talking about bringing in up to 8 cards.
Yeah, Crux of Fate, that singleton we saw him bring in earlier.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, definitely bring that one in. Both players are actually pretty good at recovering from a sweeper, so if you clear the board, then Andy is going to be able to collect a company and rebuild pretty quickly. The Deathmiss Raptors also help quite a bit, but there are going to be board positions where that's just going to turn things heavily in Tom's favor.
On Tom Ross, yeah, it's... So we'll see that one play out. We'll go over to Andy Ferguson's side. 4 Arishan Cleric, 3 Disdainful Stroke, 3 Dispel. He still has his 2 Frostwalkers. We haven't seen him use them yet.
I'm pretty sure that he only had 13 cards in his sideboard and found those in a stack on a table somewhere. They just don't seem good at all.
You're in the situation, then he was like, you know, I hope somewhere someone copies my 75, and then I'll look on coverage and I'll see some Frostwalkers, and it'll just be this inside joke that only I know.
I'm going to know that somebody copied me and didn't even think about updating the sideboard.
Those of you joining us, we're in the middle of the match here, semifinals of Star City Games Columbus. So you see, this is the 4th event of the Season 1 SCG Tour. Right now, we've been to Cincinnati, Charlotte, and Atlanta. Next week, we are at the Regional Championships. Then we are off for a week. But if you want to join us for Season 1, we'll be making our trek all around the eastern U.S. So we'll be in Louisville, Philadelphia, Indianapolis, and Baltimore before we return back to Columbus for our Season 1 Invitational. Full opens in all 3 Magic formats, as well, of course, as Sunday Classics every weekend. Now, if you do manage to make it out one of these, you will manage to get one of the Kitchen Lynx playmats. This one's a parody on everyone's favorite 3/2 Persist creature from Shadowmoor. You know, it's got a lot of competition, but we determined that Kitchen Finks was the best.
Plenty of options. Kitchen Finks crushed the competition.
Yeah, it was nearly unanimous. It's entry to any Season 1 Open. You can get this for showing up at any of those tournaments. Yet another reason to come out and join us for Star City Games weekend.
Yep, these creature collection playmats are pretty awesome collectibles. I'm sure there's people that just have a stack of 1 each and are very happy to have them.
Did you know that there was over in the other room next to us, there's a cat convention going on here in Columbus?
Yeah, those people will probably buy that playmat too.
Yeah, I mean, just saying.
I'm allergic to cats.
I hope it's not over when this tournament is done.
I hope it is.
Game 2 underway. Tom Ross on the play this time. He'll have to face down a turn 1 Warden of the First Tree. It's the only 1-drop in Andy's deck. You can imagine, though, that Tom is going to be at the ready still with all his cheap removal in this matchup.
Yeah, that Warden probably not going to stick around for too long here. 1 copy of Warden of the First Tree in Andy's deck, of course, because it is of the first tree. There is no second tree. No need for a second
another
Warden.
one.
Right.
Okay, well, it's going to wound itself. It was a self-inflicted wound that took down the Warden. The first tree is now lonely as Andy goes to 17. No play on 2, no Sylvan Advocate. Or Jace.
No land for Ross on 3.
Well, that could be difficult for him. Now, Andy will pass back as well.
Andy has, quote, no play on 3.
Well, Tom does have Draconic Roar, so he'll probably be able to answer this card. Andy goes for Bounding Crassus. But we may get a repeat of Game 1 here. There's a Collected Company hanging out in Andy's hand. And if Tom can't keep pace, that's going to overwhelm his removal and his mana.
Yeah, why would Andy not have a Collected Company? It's the best card in his deck, so he's going to draw it.
This deck's better when you always have Collected Company, especially in these non-blue matchups.
Yeah, when there's no threat of Dispel. You know, Tom does have Transgress the Mind in a 75. He has an opportunity to snipe it, but things are just not working out for Tom's draw here.
Now we have a game. Andy passed the turn back again. He also missed a land drop.
So even if he has a Collected Company, he's at least 1 land off of it.
He does have a company, but he can't play it. So go back to Tom's turn. Tom hits his 3rd land, so now 3 lands apiece. I think we have... This is interesting again.
Let's see what we can engineer this turn.
How about a Phoenix?
That didn't work.
Well, let's tap it with a Crassus. Jace is the draw from Andy Ferguson, so no land. He's got choices here. He has Reflector Mage, Dromoka's Command, Jace.
Command's pretty weak. I like Reflector Mage. Press your advantage on board, and Tom needs to draw for 4th land if he's going to have it.
Suppose more than anything else, it's mana efficient here. It's a beater. It takes care of Flamewake Phoenix.
Yeah, more. You use all of your mana as opposed to only 2 of it with the command. And you're also advancing your board position.
Crassus will swing in. Tom down to 15. You know, of note, that incremental damage that this Dragon's deck does, Andy's at 13. Draconic Roar and Self-Inflicted Wound have dealt 5 here.
Searing Blaze is a heck of a card. Make no mistake about that. Removal spells are only so good against this deck with Collected Company, and that's why it's so important to pressure your opponent's life total, and these cards do both. It's not a 2-for-1 by the textbook definition, but it's about as close as a red card can get.
Reflector Mage was the decision by Andy. It puts Flamewake Phoenix back into Tom's hand. We go to Tom's turn. Did he draw another land? The answer is no. But he does have a Thopter Engineer. That will bring a 1/1. And Tom's going to attack with a 1/1. All right.
Okay, blocking with it seems pretty poor, so.
I suppose you don't want to. We're not at the point where we have to chump it for 3 yet.
No, we've seen Tom do quite a bit of chump blocking this weekend, but never when he didn't have to.
And here's a big play from Ferguson. Dromoka's Command will turn Reflector Mage into a 3/4. It will fight the Thopter Engineer, take it down. 6 damage comes across. Tom drops down to 9. He's in single digits now.
Yep, really rewarded for that sequencing of Reflector Mage into Dromoka's Command. The board is advanced, and now he has 2 3-power creatures.
And for Tom Ross, it's just another land he needs here. Multiple copies of Draconic Roar on the board for him. And look at this. He's going to swing in to put Andy down to 9. He is already consigning himself to 3 life, and I see why.
Yeah. Swamp, Draconic Roar, swing for 3, game.
See if he can draw it up that way.
You swing first.
That would be something.
You, of course, swing first. Oh, okay.
Second Reflector Mage is going to not make that not work. Tom goes to 3.
That could be the final nail in the coffin for Ross here.
Well, he could chump block. I mean, he can still take 1 off a Reflector Mage. Well, let's see if he hit the land first. He did. It's relevant because it's polluted Delta, which means that if he goes to 8, boy, he can't actually kill. Well, he can kill both the X3s and he can chump.
That's true.
And
that,
he would be at 3.
Puts him live on anything that can deal 3 damage off the top.
If he draws the last Draconic Roar.
Yep, that's pretty much it. Unless he has like
2 Self-Inflicted Wounds.
Yeah, he doesn't have a 5th land. I don't believe he has a Kolagon in hand.
This hand seems like it would have matched up very well against Andy, actually. I mean, I suppose you say that about most hands that are many spells and few lands, that the spells are correct.
Right. This hand looks really good. All I need to do is draw lands.
Another Reflector Mage for Andy. If he casts that, I believe he has the match. Reflector Mage is the cast. It'll bounce the Thopter token.
That is the finaler nail in the coffin.
If he has Grasp of Darkness, Draconic Roar, he can get in here.
Needs to fetch down to 2 to do that, though.
But he does not. So you're absolutely right. It's 2-0. Andy Ferguson with Bant Company finally is the one to take down Tom Ross. We saw Tom just escape by the skin of his teeth on 3 separate occasions, all the way to an impressive top 4 finish. But it is Andy with Company. He'll be moving on to the finals.
Yeah, eventually you keep winning those squeakers. Maybe you win some ones you're not supposed to lose. It's going to catch up with you. Great run by Tom. Top 4 appearance is certainly nothing to scoff at. But we have Andy Ferguson going on to the finals, and this deck is awesome.
Yeah, this Bant Company deck has just really shown its strength here. Andy Ferguson was one of the players with only X2 on the weekend. He had the double draw into top 8. And that's why he's the number 3 seed and, showing his strength here as he moves into the finals.
Last weekend we saw him top 8 with an Abzan Company